It's 1:24 in the morning on March 18th, 1990. Two men in police uniforms ring the buzzer at Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They claim there's been a disturbance. The young security guard monitoring the cameras makes a fatal decision. He opens the door. 81 minutes later, they walk out with $500 million in art. The Vermeer they took? The most valuable stolen object in the world. 35 years later, the empty frames still hang on the walls. The FBI knows who did it, but the paintings, they've vanished. This is the story of the greatest unsolved art heist in history. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum sits in Boston's Fenway neighborhood, a Venetian-style palace built by a woman who defied every convention of her time. Isabella Stewart Gardner was a 19th century art collector who didn't just buy art. She lived it. She traveled the world, scandalized Boston society, and assembled one of America's finest private collections. When she died in 1924, her will had one ironclad stipulation. Nothing in the museum could ever be moved, sold, or rearranged. Every painting, every chair, every tapestry had to remain exactly where she placed it. By 1990, that museum housed masterpieces by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Degas, and Manet. It wasn't just a museum, it was a time capsule, a shrine to one woman's vision. And on the night of March 17th, as Boston celebrated St. Patrick's Day, that vision was about to be shattered. Rick Abath was 23 years old, a night security guard at the Gardner, working the graveyard shift with his partner, Randy Berglund. The museum had a simple security protocol: never open the door unless absolutely necessary. If there's a problem, call the police. The guard desk had a direct line. It had a panic button. But at 1:24 a.m., when two men in Boston police uniforms rang the side entrance buzzer, claiming to respond to a disturbance call, Rick Abath did something he shouldn't have. He opened the door. The moment those men entered, everything changed. They ordered Abath away from the security desk, the only connection to the outside world. No alarm could be triggered now. No help was coming. When Randy Berglund returned from his patrol rounds, he walked right into the trap. Both guards were ordered to the basement, bound with duct tape, their heads covered, and handcuffed to pipes in the museum's cellar. And then, the thieves went to work. Motion detectors throughout the museum tracked their movements. They had 81 minutes, from 1:48 a.m. to 3 o'clock a.m. They moved methodically through the galleries. But here's what's fascinating. They didn't take the most valuable items. They walked past a Titian worth tens of millions. They ignored a Botticelli. They left behind Raphael drawings. Instead, they made very specific choices. In the Dutch room on the second floor, they cut Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee from its frame, the only seascape Rembrandt ever painted. They took another Rembrandt, A Lady and Gentleman in Black. Then came the crown jewel, Johannes Vermeer's The Concert. Only 34 to 37 Vermeer paintings exist in the entire world. This one showed three musicians in an intimate interior scene, the kind of quiet domestic moment Vermeer immortalized better than anyone. The thieves didn't cut this one. They removed it intact from its frame. Current estimated value? $250 million. Some estimates go as high as $500 million. It is, to this day, the most valuable stolen object in the world. But they weren't done. They took a small Rembrandt etching, barely the size of a postage stamp. They grabbed a Govert Flinck landscape. They pulled a 3,200-year-old Chinese bronze ritual vessel from the Shang dynasty, the oldest object in the entire heist. In the short gallery, they opened special cabinets designed by Isabella Gardner herself and took 5 Degas works, sketches, studies, small pieces, and from the Blue Room on the first floor, they took Edouard Manet's Chez Tortoni, a small oil painting of a young man in a Parisian cafe. In total, 13 objects, $500 million in 1990. Today, estimated between $500 million and $1 billion. At 2:45 a.m., they made 2 trips to their car, loading the artwork. The guards remained bound in the basement until 8:15 that morning. When the day shift arrived to find the front door open and the galleries empty, the FBI was called immediately. This wasn't just a crime, it was a cultural catastrophe. The investigation initially focused on local organized crime. Boston in 1990 was Whitey Bulger territory, the Irish mob, the Italian patriarcha crime family. This had all the hallmarks of a mob job, and the deeper investigators dug, the darker it got. In 2001, the FBI made a stunning announcement. They had identified the thieves with a high degree of confidence. But here's the problem. They were dead. Bobby Donati, a patriarcha crime family associate and professional art thief, was found murdered just 16 months after the heist, stabbed over 20 times and beaten severely, his body stuffed in a Cadillac trunk. A jeweler later claimed Donati had brought him the Napoleonic eagle finial from the heist for appraisal in spring 1990. George Reisfelder and Leonard DiMuzio, believed to be the physical thieves, both died within months of the robbery. Then there was Bobby Guarente, a patriarcha soldier who died of cancer in 2004. Before his death, he allegedly told people he had several of the masterpieces and had hidden them in a safe house. When he died, he supposedly passed them to Robert Gentile. Robert Bobby Gentile became the FBI's primary focus for years, a Connecticut mobster who consistently denied knowing anything. But when agents searched his Manchester, Connecticut home in 2012, 2015, and 2016, they found something. A handwritten list of the stolen Gardner artworks with their estimated values. Newspaper articles about the heist, weapons, explosives, and a suspicious rubber tube buried in his yard. In prison, Gentile told at least 3 cellmates he had access to 2 of the paintings and could negotiate sales. The FBI assessment in 2024 was damning. Quote, "Overwhelming evidence points to him knowing something, but the value of it we can't say because we don't know what it was. He took it to his grave." End quote. Gentile died in 2021 at age 85. In 2013, the FBI made another public statement. The investigation points consistently to Boston-based and mid-Atlantic organized crime. The criminals are deceased. The trail led from Boston to Connecticut to Philadelphia, and then vanished. Here's what makes this case so baffling. These are some of the most recognizable artworks in the world. They were immediately placed on international stolen art registries. They can never be sold legitimately. So why were they stolen? The prevailing theory: leverage. The heist was supposedly planned to negotiate the release of Vincent Ferrara, a Patriarca crime boss arrested in November 1989. But that leverage was never used. Either the people who knew where the paintings were died before they could use them, or something went terribly wrong in the criminal underworld. Today, if you visit the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, you'll see something haunting in the Dutch Room, where Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee once hung. There's an empty frame where Vermeer's The Concert sat. An empty frame. Isabella Gardner's will stipulated nothing could be moved, so the museum has honored that. The frames remain hanging on the same walls, in the same positions. They're symbols of hope, placeholders, waiting. Anthony Amore, the museum's director of security, who has led the investigation since 2005, still believes, quote, "Yes, I think someday the paintings will be recovered, and that's my definition of solved. The only thing in the world I'm interested in is getting our paintings back on the wall." End quote. The FBI agrees. In March 2025, marking the 35th anniversary, they announced the investigation remains highly active, with every lead examined thoroughly. The museum is offering a $10 million reward for information leading to the return of all 13 works in good condition. An additional $100,000 is offered specifically for the Napoleonic eagle finial. But 35 years later, despite knowing who did it, despite decades of investigation, despite dead mobsters and prison confessions, the art has not been found. $500 million, 13 irreplaceable masterpieces, 81 minutes, and somewhere in a location known perhaps to no one living. The world's most valuable stolen object sits in darkness. Vermeer's The Concert. 3 musicians frozen in time, waiting to come home.